So it's Lorraine again. This time I'm talking about the Alba Esprit. So in the past I've been doing videos about the Alba eFix wheels, but I've kind of like moved on to the Esprit. I had an Esprit and Alba eFix wheels, and as you can see, the Esprit doesn't look as good. So here's what the Esprit looks like. You have the shorter wheels, the smaller wheels, but you still have the Alba wheelbase, and you still have the motors in the hub. You still have the motors in the hub, and you still have the braking in the hub. Now, the thing is, it's not as fashionable to use these, and they're not as flexible because you can't push. Though this particular wheelchair, you can actually take these smaller wheels off and you can replace them with manual pushing wheels, because it does have an adaptation for that, though it doesn't come on all Esprits. Now, the thing about the Esprit is that obviously the difference between this and Alba wheels is that this is a rear-wheel drive wheelchair. So it's a classic rear-wheel drive wheelchair, but with a difference. Basically, the main difference between this and a normal rear-wheel drive wheelchair is that the motors are in the hub, and you will be able to feel that. You'll be able to feel that in terms of the way it drives, its manoeuvrability, but in particular, you'll be able to feel it in regards to how it brakes. So one of the fortes of a rear-wheel drive wheelchair is that they're actually more intuitive. And if you're swapping from, for example, a mobility scooter to a rear-wheel drive wheelchair, you will find that you intuitively just know how to drive it. Because basically we're more geared toward rear-wheel propulsion in terms of the way we think of manoeuvring and also parking, etc. And normally a fault of rear-wheel drive wheelchairs is that when you get a slope like the one I'm about to demonstrate, thank you, is that you will usually find that you will slide off. The difference with an Alba wheelchair, whether it's the larger Alba wheels or it's this particular Esprit model, is that basically because the brakes are inside, the motors and the brakes are inside the wheel hub, you can learn how to stop the wheelchair in such a way that the front doesn't really slide. I'm not going to say that there's never circumstances, like if this was ice maybe you might have some issues with the traction because you've got the smaller wheels, but it is an incredibly agile wheelchair. And if you're using a wheelchair and you are partly able to either walk or transfer quite well, you're not really going to struggle with that as an issue, but we'll talk about weather conditions another time. For now, I'm going to go over this same path that I did in my previous video when I did it with large Alba wheels, and you're going to see the point at which it would normally slide off, it doesn't. So John, if you could just follow me, my son's filming today. So the point at which a wheelchair would normally slide is about here. If you look, can you film the angle there? If you look at that angle and you look at the wheels at the back here, normally this chair is starting to go about here, and as you can see, it begins to slide as I come down it. But as you can see, it brakes incredibly well. Now normally, even if you're looking at something like your Quickie R2, for example, you will still find that it begins to slide off at this point. Did you hear that click a few seconds ago? That's the click of the brakes coming into play. And once you've got those brakes on, I mean, you can deliberately shunt yourself forward, but even still, it's holding up fairly good. So I'm just going to read, and as you can see, I can come up that slope with a lot of ease, and that is the difference between Alba products and basically any other rear-wheel drive. So I'm just going to actually follow that curve round the way I would naturally do. So if you stay there, John, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow that curve round, and as you can see, I do it beautifully. I don't fall off and I don't slide. And again, coming up here, this is a fairly steep incline. What would normally happen in a, come closer, so what would normally happen in a rear-wheel drive at this point is pretty much, apart from the sliding, you'd get one of the casters coming off. Here's another thing about Esprits that's incredible. People complain because it's basically a flexible frame. It is a folding wheelchair. It's fundamentally just a basic pushing chair with attachments, really, but these are permanent attachments. But it does have that flexibility. So as we come up that path again, have a look. The caster, at the point you would lose right hand caster, you don't lose it because the weight of your body, pushes the frame against the floor. So in other words, every wheel is touching the floor at this point, not because every wheel should be touching the floor, but because of the flexibility of the frame. And I'm going to just come up like this, and if you're quite good at using the rear wheel driving system, there's a way of driving rear wheels. You'll just see that I am hanging on the edge of that ledge, and if you can just pan down, John, you'll be able to see where that I am hanging on the edge of that ledge, and it's beautiful. Guys, if you want to see, come a bit closer a second. Guys, if you want to see some more things that the Alba can do, my original Alba, this is a brand new, for me anyway, white, slightly longer Alba, really nice quickie backrest and all that. I would like you to have a look at some of my other videos, because I have taken some videos where I'm using this up a very steep hill, and I've even put some weight on the back. Actually, it was my son that's filming now, John, just to illustrate that this chair can actually do a hell of a lot more than it really should do. So although the specs in the Invacare brochure will tell you that these are the limits, you can actually push those limits quite considerably. All right, so here we are, just talking about the properties of the Invacare Action 4NG folding Esprit wheelchair. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.